So today we'll be talking with my niece, LaKeisha Williams. She is an author, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a professional, and she's amazing. And I want you to dial in and listen to this story of her overcoming some of the craziest obstacles that you could ever overcome as a woman. Now, I know there's some men who've probably been through what she's been through, but this is primarily for my sisters out there who are facing some insurmountable challenges in a relationship. I want Keisha's story to bless you. This is All Things New by LaKeisha Williams. And we're going to dive into this with her on today. How are you doing, baby girl?
Doing well. Doing well.
That's good. That's good. That's good. When I started, and it's funny, I've been saying this a lot to a lot of different guests, but there are a lot of different guests that have been on my mind for a long time. And oddly enough, when you put the book out, I already had scripted who I wanted to talk to and have conversations with for this season, which is the journey of the creatives, because you put the book out, I read the book, and it still didn't dawn on me that you fit into this frame. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get Keisha on the podcast at some point. And then Mika was like, well, babe, why you don't have her on during this season? And I was like, oh. This is what happens when you get old and you still have children. Because when you get old and you still have children, you forget the basic of the things that's right in front of you. It's like, yeah. And I said to her, I was like, I feel dumb right now. I read the book. I read the book. So yeah, I know she's in my fraternity as an author.
Yeah.
But so as one great Reverend Dr. Clarence E. Brown once said, don't charge it to my intelligence. Charge it to my brains.
To my brains. Okay. I got you.
So it's good to see you, niece.
Good to see you.
I am so glad that you were able to get on. I know we've been going back and forth with dates and times and trying to land it, but I think that the conversation that we're going to have today is so appropriate for not just your creative journey, but the inspiration of this season that we're in the world, where people are finding the courage to tell their truth or their story. And man, so first let me do this formally. Welcome to Life Interrupts Us, the podcast. I am your uncle, but I am Stephen Wayne, the storyteller. And this is the place where storytelling comes to life. And I am not a journalist. I do not plan to interview you and throw 100 questions at you. I just want to have a conversation with my niece, who's a mother, a fantastic woman of God, but also now an author. And so I want to have a conversation with you today about your journey and all of those things and how they all tie together. But how I normally kick off the podcast is I tell a story. And so this story will be quick and relevant.
Okay.
So when Mika told me that you were writing the book, I said, oh, okay. What's the book gonna be about? And so she, shared some things, and I said, oh, okay, cool, that's awesome. And then next thing I know, I didn't know, when, because I also heard Uncle Damien talking about it, but there was no dates, on this day or in this month. So I didn't know, because I know when I wrote my first book, it took me 4 years to write it. So I didn't know if we was going to be talking about this in 2027 or what. And
Yeah.
And then I'm on social media, which oddly enough, as a podcaster, I'm not on social media that often. And I see I did a thing. And I'm looking and I saw the most beautiful cover. It was very well done, by the way. And I was like, oh my gosh, she did it. I said, baby, the book is out. Mika was like, yeah, I know. I'm like, what the hell? So, did I not get the full message? I knew she was writing a book, but nobody said a date or nothing. They just, so when we got the books, because I'm a reader, but these days, I don't know about, man, I do know about you. Your life is busy like mine. I don't have time to read like I used to. Reading was one of my several escapes, and time is not something I have for escaping. I got to be present, at all times. But I wanted to read it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read it. And what I did was, while Blake would be at practice, I would sit in the car and read it. I would try to read it while in the gym, super distracted. Found myself going back over pages again, like, oh, wait, go back. Wait, what did she just say? And by the time I was halfway done, my heart was broken. I gotta tell you. To know, Mika and I had not talked a lot about your journey, but we've talked some. And I know just outlier degrees of some of the craziness that you went through. But to hear you tell it in your own words, wow. You and I have already found this very awesome love affair that we have. And I'm loving that, by the way. But reading your book took me to another place of love and respect for you. Because I told another guest this, because another guest on another episode, her storyline is just insane. But so is yours. So I'm gonna say to you what I said to her. You're not supposed to be here right now. You're supposed to be either on drugs or maybe in jail. Perhaps in jail. I would have elected for jail because the stuff that you wrote about in the book, I was like, please kill this nigga. That's just where I almost wanted this book to not be a real book so that I can imagine that it's gonna go somewhere else, but you're still here, so I know you didn't go to jail. But I was like, just kill this nigga in his sleep. You're cooking for him every day, just kill him. Let's get it over with. There's a way to do it. Don't nobody care about when black people die, so you can kill him and get away with it. It's when white people with money die that people start going, oh, we got to put them on snaps. So that was part of me. The other part was heartbroken that you at a very tender age had to go through it. And I'm a visual person, so I was asking Mika, wait a minute. I remember when we were in Oklahoma and we went to her apartment. So did this happen? Because you had an apartment that you went upstairs and everything was kind of upstairs. And I was like, when did this? And Mika was like, oh, you're talking about when Uncle Harold was there? And no. I said, no. This is an apartment way before that. I said, this was way before that. She was younger. And I was like, because all I could think of was, I knew you in that time frame. No one would know unless you told them what you'd been through or were going through. So, baby girl, hats off to you. My God. So that's my story. Reading your book, I wish that it were longer. Because I just once I got my groove, I haven't read a book in a while, but once I got my groove, I was like, man. So tell me about the book. Tell me about why you decided to write it.
Well, I think ultimately the purpose for writing it, it was twofold. It was therapeutic for me because going through it, as you said, nobody would know. So a lot of the things that were in the book that I put down onto paper, everyone that read it, it was the first time a lot of people knew. And so it was a lot to carry that. you know? And
Mm,
so it was therapeutic to just release it, because I had to hold on, for safety reasons. I had to hold on to the information for, just my own sanity. And also, God wouldn't let me speak about it for a long time.
mm,
He wouldn't
okay.
allow it. I didn't understand it then, but once it came out, I understood, why. And then second reason for writing it is because I wanted to help other women, because I know, as devastating as my story was, I'm not the only person that has gone through it. And when I was going through it, I didn't realize what I was in. And so
Mm,
I wanted other people to pick up this book and see themselves and know that they can get through it, and that he
yeah.
can make all things new. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that is the reason for writing the book.
Okay. So again, I'm not a journalist, but because you wrote the kind of book you did, it
Mhm.
does move me to ask some very specific questions.
Okay.
And you know, Oklahoma is a very small place. When I
Extremely.
read the book, I wondered if there was any fear of safety, because you know you lay out some very detailed things about families and things that I can only imagine if you're at um, was it 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭,
Cool.
my favorite place where I get that pineapple cream. And you could be at the pump getting gas, and you look over and see somebody that's in the book.
Mhm.
How did that you said God did not allow you to write it until he did.
Mhm.
When he did you ever feel like I shouldn't write it because it might be a safety issue? Or when he said you can write it, I ain't scared, I'm gonna write it, I'm gonna put everything in here?
Well, while writing it, I had that mentality. I did. I'm
Okay.
like, I got to get it out. Tomorrow is never promised, and I don't want to leave without releasing this. And so, whatever happens, happens. I'm putting it out there. I want to help people. It helped me as well. When it came
Help
time
me
to
too.
actually, amen. So, when it came time to actually releasing it, that's when that fear really hit me. And I thought,
Mm,
wow, like this is really getting ready to happen. But the thing that made me go ahead and do it is I said, I will no longer live in fear. Fear
yeah.
is no longer going to be an option for me. And I know that because he's telling me to do it, that he's going to protect me and that I'm good and that we're good. And so I did it. I just released it. I was obedient. And I know that there are things that come along with my obedience. And so I stay focused on that. I stay focused on that. And that's how it's been to this day.
Yeah. So much, Keisha, so much. And
Yeah.
again, I'm so visual. I could you wrote in a very descriptive way, which is dope. When I was writing my first book, I had told the story several times, and people would say, "Oh my God, that sounds like a book. You should write it." And I was like, "Yeah." And I've always been a writer, but it's usually been in music form.
Mhm,
When I was in high school, I used to write short stories. So when I wrote the first draft of the book,
mhm.
and I handed it in to my editor, she said, "Okay, this is a great start." And I was like, "No, wait a minute. I'm feeling myself. I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
this is how I tell the story." She's like, "Yeah, but like you're not giving us anything to visualize.
Mm,
No one would ever have to tell you that,
man, awesome.
because it was so vivid." I was getting mad. I was really getting mad while I was reading. I had a lot of emotions going on with it.
Mhm,
I was getting mad, and especially where you and I are, I was
mhm,
really irritated. I was like,
mhm.
"Th- like when you went to the first time, and then you were pregnant, and then you went back. Ooh, shoot! I think I cussed. I'm certain that I cussed when I saw that. I was like, oh hell no, because again, these were things I did not know.
Yeah.
I did not know the in between the lines. I knew the
Mhm,
general story, which is kind of like my first draft. I knew your
mhm.
first draft. When I
Right.
read it, the draft had been expanded. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Your baby's Your babies were young, very, very young.
Extremely.
I was mad. I was very, very mad about that. Not at you, but I was mad. I was like, because you've not known your uncle to be violent or anything like that. I don't fight. I don't roll up on folk, none of that.
Mhm.
But I'm always ready to fight. So
Yeah.
I carry my fire with me just in case I have to fight. I
Mhm.
was so pissed off reading what your oldest son went through.
Mhm.
I was I was like, no, hell no.
Yeah.
So what? How did you navigate that with now the fact they're older and
Mhm.
you got teenagers now and
Mhm.
you're telling this story?
Yeah.
How had they known this story? How does all that work?
So, had not known it all along because they were extremely young for several years. In the very beginning, even though he was who he was and we went through what we went through, I wanted to make sure not to taint them. I never wanted to be that woman who painted the picture for them. Um,
Hmm.
and I also knew that they couldn't even understand it at that age. So the youngest at the time, he never really had questions because, as you said, they were young. He was 2 weeks old when I left the final
Right.
time. He had no concept of him. My oldest, when I initially left, he kind of had some memories. And whenever he would bring them up, I would just let him know that his dad wasn't well and that it wasn't really safe for us to go around him. But once he got better, he would be able to see him. Now, little did I know then that that would never come to be, but
Hmm.
that is how I navigated it. When they got a little bit older, I would say fast forward maybe 7, 8 years. Um, there were small segments in time where he would come up. As I mentioned in the book, there were several of his older children that unfortunately met untimely deaths. And
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
had relationships with them, I always tried to be as present as I could be safely. And
Hmm.
um, although there was no contact with the biological dad, I always wanted to ensure that they knew their siblings. And so I made sure they listened to their music. I talked about them all the time. So they knew them. And so whenever it would happen, I would talk to them about it. Um, and they understood bits and pieces of it. When my oldest was about, it wasn't actually until my husband now came into the picture, um, where everything kind of came to light. And I believe the boys were 9 and 10 or 10 and 11,
Okay.
somewhere around there. And they really got to asking questions. Um, and
Mm.
I did not want to ever lie to them. I wanted to be the truth, but even at that age, I still wanted to give them what I felt like they could handle.
Right.
And so I just kind of I let them know, kind of the situation. And unfortunately, this is where we are. Your dad is still not well. He wasn't a very nice person to me.
That is
And
such a nice word. That nigga was
and
crazy.
yeah, and
What are we talking about here?
yeah, yeah. So to kind of put it into perspective for them, I kind of said to them, you see the things that are happening to your older brothers. Well, this is
Hmm.
kind of why I did what I did to protect you, because I put my foot down and I said, not with these kids. It's not going to happen with these. And I would risk my
Yeah.
life to make sure that they did not go down that path. And that's what I did. And so I just revealed it to them little by little as they asked. As they asked, I never brought it up to them. I let them lead with it. And as they got older, they, learned more and more things. It wasn't until I released the book that they, got the full picture, which, yeah, was interesting
It's
to say
quite a
the least.
picture. HD,
Yeah. Yeah.
1080,
Yeah.
4 or
They
5K.
yeah, they have not fully read the book yet, because there's
Mm.
parts of it that I still think they need to be a little bit older. Although I know that they know about some things, I'm not 100% ready for them to know that aspect of. mom.
So
um,
how have you done that? It sounds like you've supplied them with like edited versions. What have you, how have you
yeah.
kept them from
So
reading the whole book?
what's interesting is while writing it, as I would get the chapters edited and approved and all those things, actually the youngest at the time, he was kind of, I would read him chapters at a time.
I
And
can see that.
yeah, and whenever I got to certain places that made me uncomfortable, I kind of skim over that, keep it
Oh.
going. Yeah. Keep it going. And not those issues were not necessarily because I don't want them to know or that I'm hiding it from them, but it's just age appropriate things. I don't want to talk, sexual things with them. As
Yeah,
there are some things in the book. So those are the only areas where I shied away from.
yeah,
But
yeah.
other than that, yeah. There was a difficult time I had with my oldest, because like I said, the baby at the time never really had a thought about him. Um,
Yeah,
um, but my oldest, he had questions, and
sure.
there was a
He
time
experienced
where,
quite a bit of trauma.
yeah, he had made a statement once that said, "Well, how do I know that you're telling me the truth?"
Ooh, ouch,
Yeah, yeah. That one
ouch.
that one cut deep. That one cut deep.
I'm cut. Look, I'm over
Yeah,
here
that one
bleeding with
cut
that.
yeah,
But that
yeah,
doesn't surprise me for him. That does not
yeah,
surprise
yeah,
me for him.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And it cut deep, but then I couldn't be upset with him because I had to put myself in his shoes. He was only hearing one side of it. He was. So it was a fair question. It was fair.
Sure.
But I told him that you just have to trust me. Trust me with it. And in time, you will find out for yourself. And when you do, you'll say, okay, mom, you were right all along. You were right. And so yeah, so that's where we are on that. And that was, I think around the time that I actually told them, around 10 or 11 years old is when we had that conversation. So yeah.
Cap Clothing, aka Cap LA, aka Knowledge and Persistence. Established in 2018, Cap is a clothing company based out of the Los Angeles, California area. So has that revelation for him happened yet?
It has. It has. It's
Yeah.
happened, especially after the release of this book. Um, and he's thanked me several times for
Wow.
doing what I did and that he understands um and that was a weight lifted off of my shoulders, definitely. Because it was always a fear of mine that, because as parents, we do the best that we can.
Yeah.
We don't know the outcome every time. And so I did not know how
Right.
that was going to turn out. But the fact that it turned out the way that it did was such a weight off my shoulders. And so I'm grateful for it. Definitely.
I think you saved his life. Um physically, because there are a lot of things that go on in your story physically.
Mhm. Yeah.
And mentally. I think you
Mhm.
saved his life. I didn't grow up with my father, but I knew my father.
Mhm.
And I never told him this before he died, but he did me a favor
Mm.
by not being around.
Yeah.
Because had he been around based on who he was and been able to put an imprint on me, I
Mhm.
would have been so different. I already
Yeah.
had traits of his without even ever being really in his presence,
Mhm.
just genetically. And which is odd because even personality traits, but he did me a favor. And so
Mhm.
you did him a real solid by escaping. That's why when you went back, initially I was like, Mika, she she went back because Mika knowing things about your story that I didn't know, and I'm like, what? Oh, come on. She,
Yeah.
so, but I get it. I get it. And I get it. You were in a very interesting place trying to honor God. You were trying to honor your husband,
Mhm.
and that does not go unnoticed. The fact you talked a lot about in the book that you would you would cook, you would clean, you would make yourself physically available.
Mm,
I had a dear friend who told me that she had had an abusive marriage, and they were Jehovah's Witness,
mm,
and she said that she went to the elders of Kingdom Hall and told them, "Hey, my husband is being abusive physically and emotionally," and they
mm,
said to her, "Okay, well, we'll speak to him, but in the meantime, just make sure that when he comes home, the meals are ready, and that you are freshened up and ready for intimacy
mm.
and all." And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? I was
Yeah.
like, are you serious?
Mm,
And so when I read your book, it took me back to that conversation with my friend. And I
mm,
was like, wow, my baby girl was trying to be honorable. Just you right. You said it. You said we do the best we can. We do what we know to do
mhm.
until we know more.
Right.
And that it was just such a journey of courage and tragedy, just
Yeah.
crazy. It read like a movie. It literally
Yeah.
read like, I was like, this could very easily be a series, because
Mhm.
this is like, man, it's
Yeah.
and in our community, we have not talked a lot about these things. This stuff has been
Mhm.
happening in our community forever, but we're
Yeah.
just now starting to talk about it and tell our stories and that
Right.
kind of thing. People trying to get free. So I
Yeah.
think that the timing of your book is perfect in terms of people trying to be free.
Yeah.
Um, but what about Big T? How did he? Because I'm sure he already knew your story,
Mhm.
and I'm making an assumption that he
Mhm.
knew your story. But
Yes.
if he knew your story, which I figured he did,
Mhm.
he had to relive it too, in terms
Yeah.
of, I mean, obviously he didn't know you when it was happening,
Right.
but to know that that's what you went through, and to know that he wants to be your protector, how did Terry handle this?
I think that he handled it well, probably better than I could have. I know it was one of the first things that I let him know. I wanted to be upfront that it's a lot. I went through a lot. I
You
went
were
through a
you were
lot.
like the black version of Sleeping with the Enemy. It's just like, what are we
Yes.
doing here?
Yeah. And I let him know. I said, if that is too much for you, I'm okay with that. Just let me know now. That was
Hmm.
it. And he said, it's not too much. It's not. And he has been there. He has been such a rock during this whole time. And there was so much even that I put on him in the beginning of our relationship, because
Mm,
even though it had been, oh my gosh, time is eluding me. I think I had been divorced 7 to 8 years before he even came into the picture. So
okay.
there was a lot of healing that took place. And I believe that's why I was alone for so long, because I had went through so much. It took a lot of work to get me okay. But it is also things that you never really deal with until you're in a relationship. And so there were things that I realized that I was still bound by from that marriage, even almost a decade later.
Yeah,
That
residue is strong.
Yeah, yeah, that he took on so gracefully that I think a lot of men would have been like, you know what, that's too much. Like it's too much, and he did it great. And I don't know how many times he had to say to me, "I'm not him. I'm not him."
Mm,
And it
mm,
was just that simple. That's all he would say. I'm not him, and this is not that. This is not that.
yeah.
And so it took a lot for him to break down some walls that I did not know. I don't even say, I wouldn't call them walls. I would say fears. I would say fears. Um, because in the beginning of that relationship, he said everything right, like narcissists do.
Sure.
They say everything right.
Yes, they're
And
good at it.
so
They're very
they're
good at it.
wonderful, wonderful. And so he was saying all the right things. So I was just waiting for that. I was waiting for that character to come through like it did in the past. And I was waiting on it and waiting on it and waiting on it. And he just kept saying, I'm not him. I'm not him. And that helped me more than he will ever know. And to be in something that felt so safe was so refreshing. To go from being bound up, like your marriage is like this
Yeah.
constantly, to just having fresh air, being able to breathe and be yourself, um, was just more than I could have ever asked for. Um, he made all things new and made it better than what I even anticipated. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a nice self plug. I like that.
yeah,
You made all things new. Yeah, I
yeah,
dig that.
yeah, yeah.
Was there so when I put my first album out
Mhm,
many years ago, you were a little bitty girl.
mhm,
It had taken me years because I've been doing all this music, but I had never put any of it out.
mhm,
There was this wall, there was this mountain of fear that I had, this voice that was constantly kind of telling me, you suck, you trash, ain't nobody gonna buy it, all this stuff.
mhm,
And when I finally got the courage to ride over there, your auntie is solely responsible for that, by the way, her and God. Um,
mhm,
I remember when I finished the last song, the edits on the last song, and I came out of my studio. At the time, my studio was at the church that I was at.
mhm,
Um, and I came out of my studio and I had it in my hand, and my mom came around the corner, and I just burst into tears. Like, I finished. It's finished. It's finished. Because what you
yeah,
don't know about your uncle is I am extremely tender,
mhm,
extremely tender. I'm very tenacious, but I'm also very, very tender.
mhm,
And oh, I wept like a 5-year-old
yeah,
because I felt like, number one, I conquered the fear. Number two, it was the first of what I knew would be many.
mhm,
Because once I got over the fear of it, then I knew, okay, I can do it because I just did
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Were there moments like that for you with the book when you got it done and you cried, you and Terry cried, did you cry throughout it, throughout writing it? How was that?
Um, it was a little bit of both. It was more crying throughout it, um, and crying at the end as well, because 4 years, as you said, it took you 4 years to write your book. Um, it took roughly about the same amount of time. By the time people started
Mm,
hearing about me writing it, is when I was like, I've got to get this out. But I had
okay.
heard for years and years, write the book, write the book, write the book. And there was a lot of things that there was certain cycles that I kept going through in my life. And I just could not understand why I couldn't break free from these certain cycles. And then I was like, it hit me one, and I don't remember if it just came to me, if I read something that said, that God is trying to get you to do the last thing that He told you to do before you can move past it. And I was like, I'm gonna write that book. I am going to write that book. And it has been one of the most freeing things that I have ever experienced. And just like that weight that I talked about off my shoulders, it's been such a weight off my shoulders. Even just releasing that, it's been so freeing.
Yeah, yeah.
It was almost like I didn't realize it in the moment, but it was almost as if I had been holding my breath since I left.
Yes, yes.
And it wasn't until
Yeah.
that book was released that I was like, this is it. This is it. And so, yeah, rivers are flowing.
Philip Sharp Skills Jacobs, from Los Angeles, California, native, born and raised there. I'm a hip hop artist, I'm a leadership speaker, I'm an author. Mainly, I'm a creative, and I'm excited and passionate about entrepreneurship and helping people realize their full God-given potential.
Well, and
Definitely.
I
Definitely.
don't think that it's humanly possible. With God, all things are possible, but in our humanly realm of living, which is where we normally live,
Mhm,
I don't think it's possible to go through all that you went through and the residue not still be there and be able to hold you in certain ways.
mhm,
And when you find yourself retelling a story that you spun in your head 100 times because you lived it. It's different when you put it on paper.
Oh yeah.
And you get to see those words jump out at you. And then you start going, what was I thinking?
Definitely.
Or
Definitely.
I can't believe this, or why didn't I just stick this nigga?
As I was writing it, there were moments when I was writing and I was like, I don't know if I can put this in there. I don't know if I should put this in there. And I'm like, no, you have to be true to your story, because it's 9 times out of 10, it's going to be those things that you're nervous about putting in there that's going to free other people. And so that's why I did it. That's why I did it.
Okay, now I'm curious. Now you gotta tell me. Give me at least one thing that, because you need to know. I read the book, but a couple of the chapters I read more than once. Because again, I'll be reading, I'd get distracted, and I'd go back and reread and be like, "That's what I thought I read. This is crazy." What? Give me at least one example of something that you fought with and said, "I don't think I should put it in here."
Well, definitely for sure, the parts that I wanted to stray away from it, a lot sexual things. I did not want to put that in there. I definitely did not. There was also parts about sexuality that I didn't want to put in there. On the other half, just like we talked about, fear and backlash, because like I said, there was a lot of this is new to a lot of people that will be reading it. And so I was nervous about that. I going back, like you said, after we have this elaborate escape the first time. I mean, it's elaborate.
It was like a movie, I'm telling you. It was like a movie.
It was elaborate. And we go through all of this, and I'm in a safe place. I'm finally, and I'm like, I'm going back. He said he's sorry, and I'm going back. And I know specifically that one I put in there because, like I said, while I was going through it, I didn't understand what exactly it was. I never thought of myself as an abuse victim in that time. I never thought that I was, if someone would have come to me, which they did, and said something about it, I was offended, or I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. It's not, he's never hit me. Like I'm not, in an abusive relationship. But so I wanted to put those things in there to help people see that that's what abuse victims do. They go back. 9 times out of 10, it takes someone in that situation several times. They go back several times before they ultimately leave. And unfortunately, a lot of women and some men lose their lives in that process. And I'm eternally grateful to God that I was not one of those that lost their lives going back. So I felt it was very important to put that. At first, I was just like, that's gonna make it seem like it really wasn't that bad. If you put the fact that you went back in there, it's gonna make it seem like it really wasn't that bad. Because what you go back for if it was that bad? But that's what abuse victims do. That's what they do. They go back. They're wooed back into it. And in the book, I go through the different stages that typically is in a narcissistic abusive relationship. And that was just one of the stages that I was in, the love bombing. He said everything that I needed to say. And I wanted to go back. I wanted to honor my husband. And God was going to restore it. And when everything was going to be wonderful, we were going to live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And so I just really, really wanted people to see that. And I think authenticity and vulnerability is crucial in writings like this so that people can identify with that. And I want people to identify with this story. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that authenticity and vulnerability. So then I know you. I know that you're a God girl. How did it feel when you finally came to the realization that God was not going to restore that marriage?
Honestly, I was devastated. I was devastated because, believe it or not, with everything that you read in that book, I loved that man. I was in love with that man. And there were years after the divorce that I was angry with God. I was mad.
Mm.
I was extremely mad, and I completely turned my back on him. Completely. Because I said, "How can I pray to you?" I'm talking about on my knees, weeping, begging you to restore this, and you just allow this to happen to me. I could not fathom a God. I didn't see how that could be a good God. What kind of good God would allow that to happen to me, his daughter, in whom he supposedly loves? That's how I felt in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And so it my faith took a hit. It took a hit, and there was years I can't even count how many years it was. It was several years. That I said, I'm done. I'm not going to pray anymore, because prayer obviously isn't going to work.
Prayer didn't work.
What am I praying about? And so I stopped going to church. It was no longer interest to me. It was, wasn't anything that, was going to do anything. So, and it took, let's see, what was that moment? If I could be honest and transparent,
Please be.
it honestly took from the time this happened, which was around 20, 2014 is when the divorce was finalized. I still went to church sometimes, but my heart wasn't in it. It was,
Sure.
that's what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. That's what we do on Sundays.
That's what we do. So I did that for years. When I left Oklahoma, finally, well, it wasn't final, I guess, but for the long extended amount of time, and went to Iowa. I visited a couple churches, but my goal was not to continue that. When I left Oklahoma, I was leaving everything behind. Him too, God too. He was gonna stay in Oklahoma.
Become ratchet.
Answer somebody else's prayers.
I'm going to the club.
Yeah. Well, see, I never did that. I never, because that's not in my nature. I was just all about my boys, which I am still to this day. And so it was me and my boys, and life was good. And I said, see, see, I didn't need him in the first place. I had a good job making some
around all them white people in Iowa.
Yeah. And it honestly was not until Big T, my husband, came into the picture. It wasn't until he came into the picture, in which I told God that the next person that I am with, I don't want him to have nothing to do with the church. Because my first husband was.
Isn't that interesting? You're telling God,
I'm telling
don't send
God,
me none of your kids.
don't send me none of your little boys, because I done been there,
to be able to
done
pay
that.
bills and take care of me, but I don't want him all wrapped up in you.
At all. At all.
Wow.
But but it wasn't until he came into the picture, and he wanted me to go to church with him. It was very important. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, I can go to church. There's nothing wrong with me just showing up to the building. I can do that. Right. That's good. I can handle that. And I did. And I made sure that I sat in the back. I sat to the side. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But it was his consistency and getting me into the church, and God just really start, tugging on my heart and pulling on my heart and showing me, like, look at where you are, like, open up your eyes and look at where you are right now. And then reevaluate how you feel about me. Reevaluate.
Yeah.
And then things started coming into perspective, and I'm like, God, I left him, but he was with me all along. And it was when I realized that no matter how much I cursed him and pushed him away, his love for me never changed. And he was still chasing me down. And I said, okay, God, okay. I know that I can't run from you forever. And my husband was like, it's time to go back home. It's time to go back home, because I was never coming back to Oklahoma, ever. And he said, it's time to go back home. And I'm like, no, I can't go back there. I can't go back there. I'm like, he's there. His family's there. Everybody's there. I'm not going back there. And I'm like,
what's Oklahoma?
Yeah. And I said, well, he was like, it's different now. And I'm like, what's different? He was like, you have me now. That's what's different. And I'm like, okay. Okay. It was just us out there, and this is closer to his family as well. And so we came here, and it was such a God thing. It was so God. And it has reignited being back in my church home where I was pulled away from in the beginning. It's full circle. Now we're back there. We're serving. God is blessing uh, like crazy, and it's been phenomenal. And He has literally, shameless plug, made all things new.
You better go ahead and plug it.
It's not just a
You better
jar.
plug it.
Like it's something that I live. Like I know that's the title of the book, but it's reality for me. Like that means something to
Sure.
me. It's significant to me. And it's what I want people to know, because I had lost everything. I'm talking about everything. And what I have now far exceeds what I thought that I lost. What I thought that I lost.
Mm,
It far exceeds
yeah.
it. And I don't want to preach, but
Go
that
ahead
that
on.
that word that
You got a
word
congregant right here. Amen.
that word new means something it has not been. It's not that you were sad and now you're happy. It's deeper than that. It's like
Right.
it's greater than what you could ever expected. Um, the peace. Like I never asked for peace before. I didn't ask for peace, but just being able to breathe and have the freedom to being able to be in every aspect of my life frees me to do so much. And me having the availability to be used by God like I never had before. I
Yeah.
know that is going to just accelerate not just my life, but our lives, my children's lives, like so much more. And um, I really pray that this book is that same thing to other people.
At Mike Henry's Barbecue Company, we are passionate about delivering not just the best food, but the best experience. Nestled in the heart of Rancho Cucamonga, our mission is to treat every guest like family, offering mouth-watering barbecue that's slow cooked to perfection and served with a smile. From our tender brisket to our savory ribs, each dish is crafted with love and attention to detail. Our dedicated team goes the extra mile to ensure every visit is memorable, blending friendly, attentive service with a warm, inviting atmosphere. At Mike Henry's Barbecue Company, we don't just serve food, we serve happiness. Oh, I know it will be. I know it because, first of all, you're not the only one that's gone through that.
Mhm.
And there are people who will go through that, and there were people who will be on track to go through that, but will be
Mhm.
intercepted by your story,
Amen.
and it will be the reason why they go,
Mm,
no, I'm gonna go on and go this way.
mm.
While I was dating you, you showed me enough.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
always ask. Here's the interesting thing about narcissistic behavior.
Mhm,
If you look real close in the first phases,
mhm,
what I call and what a lot of people call their honeymoon or
mhm,
their first impression phases,
mhm,
there are tales in there. But we're so overwhelmed, and we say we because I know something about it. We're so overwhelmed
mhm,
by what we're wanting and
mhm.
we're getting what we want that we dismiss the
That'll
little
be
things
okay.
that
Mhm.
aren't really that little. But we
Yeah,
dismiss them because if I could get 70% love and happiness and 30% crazy, I'll take it
I'll take it.
because ain't
I'll
nobody
take whatever
perfect,
I
and I'm a little crazy too, and so I don't even
yeah.
deserve 100%. I only deserve about
Mhm.
60, so I'm getting 70. I'll take it. And
I'll
then
take
when
it.
you look back, you look back and you go, "Oh damn!
Mhm.
Like what?
Yeah.
I I saw all these things, and I just said, nah, the sun's still shining." Yeah, but it's storming right over you. You like Linus. You walking around with the storm just over you. Um,
Mhm.
your your journey with that book is incredible, but the cool thing is you're still so young, so vibrant, and you've turned a lot of corners in your emotions, because I've always known you to be a very strong-willed, stubborn young woman. and that's probably still there to some extent, but you have become so much softer over the years. Where do you go from here? Do you have, and this is not as the former battered woman, but as the author, where does 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 the author go from here? Do you have another story in you? Is there something else about your life that you want to write about, or are you getting ready to think about diving into the fictional world of self-improvement and motivation and all that stuff?
I don't think, not necessarily the fictional aspect. I do believe that I have a few more stories. And I don't want to call them stories. I don't, a few more things that could be written about. A few more things. Because to me, stories kind of seem fictional. It's not, they're not fictional. They're real life. But honestly, where I see myself going, I really, my heart's desire is to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And not just with this book, but with him, with God. I really have hid. I've done a good job of hiding for a long time. And I am at a stage where I can no longer hide. I do not want to leave this earth with hidden gifts, with hidden talents. I want to literally be empty of everything that God put in me when I leave this earth. I have a passion to teach, and I want to do that. I want to go around however far God takes me talking about this book, and however else God wants to use me. But I do not see myself being hidden any longer. And I really believe that has a lot to do with this move back, because I was hidden in that state that I was in. And God said, it's time for you to come out of hiding. You got to come out of hiding. And so I'm in a season that I call my yes season. And so every
Yeah.
opportunity that has been presented to me, I no longer make excuses as to why I can't do it. I just say yes. I'm fearful. I'm a little afraid, but I say yes and I do it anyway because I know in my obedience, God is really going to bless me. I.e., this podcast, because I want, I wanted to say no. I'm just like, I can't do it. No. And he's reminding me, he's
Yeah.
like, this is your yes season. Do it. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so every
Well,
opportunity. Yeah.
Moses hid.
Mhm.
He hid too, because he had done something,
Mhm.
and God allowed him to hide for a time so that
Mhm.
he could prepare him.
Mhm.
So your hidden season was a good season. It
Mhm.
was a necessary season
It was.
because
Mhm.
he had to do some work on you
Oh, yeah.
and some work for you
Mhm.
before he could push you out. Because
Yeah.
again, this book that you're telling, especially, see, it's different if you lived in California or Texas even, um, or somewhere larger. Oklahoma's very
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
So you to tell this story knowing that the enemy is on every side,
Mhm.
that takes a tremendous amount of courage.
Yeah.
We can be afraid, but in our fear, if we trust God, then our trust in him is greater than our fear. And
Mhm.
for you to have the courage to write this book, because when I was reading, I was just like, man, every gas station, I would be like head on a swivel. Even down to, I think it's the pastor's wife who was a cousin
The
in the store.
ex-wife, the ex-wife. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
was
was
hot
the ex,
about that.
it was the
I was
ex-wife.
hot.
Mhm.
See, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to show up at the church. It's like when we get to town, let's just stop by over there. Because that's kind of how I work. I'm
Yeah.
real quiet like that.
Yeah.
But the courage that it takes to tell the story you told is a clear example of the fact that you are clearly no longer hiding.
Mhm.
And so I can see several lanes for you to walk in with this journey, because what you experienced is an ongoing crisis.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have people in the lives of other people who are out of control and they don't know what to do. And yes,
Yeah.
the way you described that escape the first time, I swear it was like, that was the most calculated. Here's what got me right. You planned it down to the hour. Like, I would go when he would sleep, I'd go outside and take some stuff, and then I'd come. And I'm like, she did all of that planning and then turned around and went back. I was like, what are you doing? Your plan was too good. It worked. People's plans in the movies got us messed up, because in the movie, the plans don't usually work. They find you. It's like,
right at the last minute.
What are you doing here? You got away. It was like, oh my gosh, she got all the way away. I'm like, wow. But I get it. I get that. But the fact that you planned it was so meticulous. I was like, okay, she's a strategist. And that's a good thing. That's a good arsenal to have, to be able to strategize and you know, be prepared for a certain type of warfare and able to move in and out. You're so good at that. You couldn't have made that up, because if we had made it up, it would have been fictionalized and you would have got caught. You didn't get caught. You went back. So, you know, he didn't know where you were. He's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and this is a big country. You know, you could have been in Utah for all he knew. He didn't have, I was laughing too, right? I was reading and I was laughing like, this nigga don't even know where she is. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Pages, because again, I didn't know the story completely. So as I'm turning it, this stuff is being revealed to me for the first time. And I'm like, wait, no, she not. What's she crying for? Oh my God, I know she not. I know. Mika, you know she going back? Did you know she went back? Mika's like, yes. I'm like, what? What? That's, her escape was perfect. You couldn't have written it better if it was a movie. It was perfect. So I know that reading just that part on just jumped out the page on me. You have, you can call it what you want. I call it storytelling. You have the ability to tell a story that resonates. That's why I said this is a place where storytelling comes to life. You have the ability to tell a story in such a way that a person can resonate with it. They'll trust you because it's not just a story. They will trust you. And those are the things that we need to be able to do. You know, I wish more preachers would tell more truth in the pulpit about who they really are, about what they struggle with, about what they may have struggled with just earlier that morning, instead of being so perfect and so propped up.
Manicured,
Yes, very manicured. It would help revolutionize the church, because Jesus was the only one who could play that role, and then he didn't even play that role. He's the only one that could, and he didn't do it. But we spend a lot of time trying to present this image instead of just keeping it real, so that people can see what's real, and then the things we share with them, they would embrace with more confidence. So I'm excited. I'm excited for whatever the journey looks like for you.
Yes.
I am.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
So you and I talked or text a few months ago about the book, and I was asking, you know, how things going, and you were, you know, letting me know it's been a challenge, you know, getting it out, getting the places. How is that improved since we spoke? Are people calling you? Are you getting to speak some places?
Not yet. It's still kind of in that same vein. I was discouraged about it then, but I've changed my perspective on it here very recently. And because so many people, when it was in the process of coming out and they would read it, and even before they read it, they would be like, I know this is going to be a bestseller. I know it. Right. And so I was like, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of, you know, and then when it came out and it, you know, surface level, it didn't seem like it did too hot. I was a little discouraged at first, but then I'm like, you know what? The promises that you get and the, you know, the words that you get is not always on your timetable. And so I believe God that this book is going to touch every single soul that it is supposed to touch. So have the doors open yet? No, but they will. I believe that they will open. And because I'm in my yes season, I'm gonna walk through every one of them and speak to as many people as possible. And that is my goal in this. So yeah.
Well, when we'll be there in May, and
Mhm.
I look forward to sitting down with you because I said it back when we were texting. I have some thoughts about some things that you can do
Yeah.
to mobilize it to some extent. But timing is always everything. But the cool
Mhm.
thing is about your book, it's a timeless tale. It's a timeless
Mhm.
story
Yeah.
because again, that has happened, is happening, and will happen. So there's never going to be a moment when your story, your journey, your experience is out of sync with reality.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And so that's the great thing. After you are gone, people will still
Mhm.
be getting blessed by that book,
Amen. Amen.
because of what it does. Is it available digitally as well?
It is. It is.
Okay,
On
okay.
Amazon, it is available on Kindle as well.
Cool, cool. What was that process like? Did you do all of that on your own, or did you have somebody help you navigate that?
Oh, my Lord. That's a whole nother
One author
story.
to another. I know that side that
Yeah.
she's speaking with.
Oh, yes. So it was quite the story, and quite the process. It sat with an editor for a while, who I paid a lot of money to, who just never delivered, just kind of ghosted me.
Mm,
So then I had to start over, and then I had someone to financially bless me, and said, I only know bits and pieces of your story, but I know that this needs to get out, so I'm going to sew into that. And
dope.
so then, yeah, so then I was able to just run with that and get a new editor. It's self-published, of course, and so
Nothing wrong with
it,
that. You in
it's,
control.
yeah, it's self-published. And once I found someone who was able to help with the book cover, the editing, the like everything. And so once I got with the second person, that was even, I mean, it was still stressful, but I knew that they weren't going to ghost me like the first time. And
Yeah.
so it was a process, but going through, I think it's Kindle Direct is what you release it on. They were really helpful. So once I got it to them, I mean, it was kind of like a walk in the park. I scheduled my date for release and just kind of flow from there. So yeah.
Yeah. I had with my first book, after I put it out, and I had like a whole team. I had a team of
Mm.
readers.
Oh
I had
wow.
two different teams of readers. One group read one draft, another group read another draft, and I had an editor because we did like 4 edits on that first book.
Yeah.
And after I put the book out, one of my friends called me and said, "Steve, you forgot to change your name in the book in the first chapter." I was like,
Oh
"What?
wow.
No." And I flipped through like, "Oh my God." I had to go back. Now I had already put books out.
Oh
I had to go
wow.
back to Kindle, go back to Amazon because mine was on
Hmm.
Kindle and Barnes and Nobles. And I had to go
Okay.
back and resubmit. I
Yeah.
had to resubmit the book after I made the edit changes. And of course, when I did that, Kindle started tripping, going, "We found these mistakes." I was like, no, 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 no. I just changed one word. What are you talking about? It was super stressful,
Hmm.
super duper stressful. But the
Yeah.
second book was not. It was a cakewalk. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, we got our flow now. But yeah,
Hmm.
I can
Yeah.
imagine that will be stressful. And then I've heard,
Hmm.
oddly enough, I've heard a lot of people get ghosted by editors or editors. And it's like
Hmm.
that's almost like a an epidemic. And it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's so
So
crazy.
I
But
had
now
never
with
heard of
AI,
it, but
with,
mhm.
with AI now, you almost don't even need an editor. You're
Right,
like,
right.
I want to put it in there and
Yeah.
tell fix it. Fix
Yeah.
it all.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I want you to know I'm extremely proud of you. But let's put the author to the side for a minute. I'm proud of the woman that you have become. You have faced a lot. Um, and within the framework of the story in the book, of course, then we lost Fifi.
Mhm.
So your mom. So all of that it all makes so much sense to see where you were then
Mhm.
and where you are now. It
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I'm proud of your growth and your journey. And now I'm proud that you were bold enough to share it, because it lends so much context to who 𝐾𝐨𝐿 is and who she was. And I like I said, I loved you before I read the book, but I loved you even more after I read the book. I was a fan.
Awesome.
I was like, okay, she write another book, I'm gonna read it. Yeah, I'm a fan. I am legitimately a fan. I have given a couple of books away to some folks. Like, hey, you need to read this, and not because they're where you are, but again, you never know where a person is headed, because we don't talk a lot about our secrets. So people don't know what people are thinking and going through. You know, their little boyfriend or girlfriend somebody got might seem like the nicest person in the world, and unless the Holy Ghost say, "Hey, I need you to know," then most folk don't know. We're good at dressing up. And so I gave it to a couple of people with intentionality, so that's why I bought so many, and I'm gonna buy some more when I come there, because I know what to do, and I know how to move stuff, and it's like I am so proud of you, so proud of everything you got going on, and we glossed over it, but let's be clear, you are a mother of 3, or technically a
4.
mother of 4.
Yep.
You were a mother of 7, lost 3, because in that book, now this much I did know before the book, I knew that you had become a mother to those 3 boys. That I had heard about. I had heard all about that. So you have been a mother of 7 boys. I don't know too many people that can say that. That's a lot of testosterone. And 𝐾𝐶's got a man at home. You know, you have done a lot in a small amount of time, and you have grown by leaps and bounds in that. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be in your presence, baby girl. I really am. I had such a great time when you guys were here, just loving on you and kind of fortifying where you and I need to go and who we need to be to each other. And it's been sweet. And I appreciate that. But I'm proud, just as a man, seeing his sister, seeing a woman doing her thing. I'm proud of you. You got boys, you got teenagers. And unfortunately, your old uncle has a teenager too. I wish he was
same
grown.
age.
Right. It's like, what? I wish he was grown. But he's not grown yet. It's like I tell him all the time, I want my life back, man.
It's almost here. It'll be here before you know
like I am, because Dom is young. So
he's a baby. Got a 3-year-old. I started over.
Right. So
started over.
To do all that you've done, and you forged ahead in your career and education and everything, and you have a beautiful marriage to a man that can really, really do a seafood broil right. Can really, really do it right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm at awe of your accomplishments. I know the book is going to do everything that God plans for it to do, simply because you were obedient. And you're right. When we're obedient, he moves mountains when we're obedient. So I love you, and I'm glad you came on and sat with me and talked about that book and that journey. I'm looking forward to what you write next. I know you got some other stories in you, some other adventures. Because that was truly the way you wrote that escape. I got to tell you, you the way. Look, okay, I know I keep harping on it, right? But the way you wrote the escape, you really do have a fiction writer in you. It's in you, because that read like fiction. I was like, this is just too good. This is too perfect and too detailed. You wrote it in great detail. I wouldn't turn my back on fiction. You can write Christian fiction if you want, whatever. But there's a world where, there's an author that I want you, if you're not familiar with, her name is Vanessa Griggs.
Okay.
She's amazing.
Okay.
Like,
I'll look her up.
Probably the best Christian author I have ever read. Because she writes in a way that you find yourself asking, who are these people she's talking about?
Yeah.
This can't be fiction. She's writing it too good. And the storyline. There's a book of about 9 books in a series centered
Okay.
around a pastor and his wife. Just just excellent reading too. She wrote it well, but the storyline is dope. How she writes the stories and unfolds them, super dope. And it has a little Hollywood flair to it without being unbelievable.
Okay.
Your depiction of your escape read like that.
Mm.
That's not something that's taught.
Mm.
That's something that either you have it or you don't. Now you might can learn it along the way, but last time I checked, you didn't go to school to be a writer. So
never written anything in my life.
Right. So see that, so that come on, don't turn your back on that. You got something. You really got something. I would read whatever you wrote. You got something. And I think that you need to be thinking about exploring it, because that along with your ability to be transparent about your life, and your willingness to do kingdom business means that gift that you have, because it's truly a gift, Keisha. It really is a gift. Everybody can't just sit. AI can't do it like that, because it's going to just generate it from a computer's perspective. You wrote from such a humanistic perspective, but with such raw and real emotion, but you wrote it, I'm telling you, that plan, that layout, you gotta give us more of that. You gotta give us more of that. Okay. By the way, it's sitting right here.
Yes.
He makes all things new, baby.
All
yes.
Things new.
Beautiful cover.
Thank you.
Purple is your mama's favorite color.
Gotta rock the purple.
Your auntie's favorite color. Purple is your uncle's favorite color. And that's what we rock with. So this was perfect. I want you to come back and talk with us again when we get into some other topics.
Okay.
But we're gonna spend some quality time in May when we get there, because there's some things I want to share with you about the books and some outlets and some things that you may or may not know. And I just want to see you win, because it was beautifully done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. This is an honor.
The pleasure was mine, sugar. Pleasure was all mine. All mine. I'm telling you, once I read that book, I was like, what is going on here? Why did I not know? Why did I not know about all this? Why did we not talk about all of this? But I get it. And it's all good, because we're talking about it now, and now you and I are talking about it directly. And so I want you to know, whatever you need, I got you.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Okay.
Well, I love you, baby girl. I know you got to go feed somebody, or I don't hear Dom hollering. That's a miracle.
I kicked them all the guys. They're out. So
oh well, you're surrounded by them. So.
I am.
Well, tell all my nephews that I said hey, and I love you, and I look forward to seeing
you too. I can't wait to see you.